Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vega Insights. I'm Luke Bideaux, President and CEO of Vega Imaging Informatics. With me today is Matt Hayes. Matt is a medical imaging professional with over 25 years of experience spanning multiple specialties. He served in several organizational models, including primary care hospitals, practices, created multi-state delivery networks, and academic medical centers. These sites range from a few thousand studies to tens of millions of annual studies across multiple modalities and medical subspecialties. Over the past 4 years, Matt's focus has been interpreting, adjusting, and advising imaging technology implementations tailored to care organizations. Additionally, he has supplemented application support and advised vendors on product changes to better suit customer needs. Matt, it's a pleasure to have you with us today, and I'm excited to talk about this topic here. So, there are just so many new and exciting imaging technologies out there right now. I feel like it can be difficult for organizations to determine what's right for them and which ones need to be prioritized. For instance, many organizations have big consolidation initiatives happening. And now with PACs, many PACs are now supporting multiple specialties. You're starting to see PACs that support radiology, cardiology, digital pathology, and more. And that can align with some of the overarching consolidation initiatives. And then on the workflow tool side, there are workflow tools now that support multiple specialties. Many of these reporting platforms and routing solutions can handle workflows of data from multiple specialties. There's also the movement to the cloud, and every organization is probably in a little different place with their movement to the cloud. There's so much to consider, but most PACs are now offering some sort of cloud architecture. And of course, weighing out all the pros and cons there can be a handful to deal with, considering the performance considerations in the cloud, storage costs, just everything that goes along with that. And then now with the AI boom, all these technologies out there, diagnostic AI, hundreds of solutions to evaluate. Also, there are multiple platforms out there that enable the use of the technology. So you have to evaluate those. And then on the workflow side, there are so many solutions: AI-powered reporting solutions, AI-powered work lists, AI-powered patient scheduling and engagement tools, and the list goes on, right? So how does an organization figure out where to spend all their resources and how to prioritize these things?
Look, thanks for having me. The answer is very carefully, especially with a lot of the economic environment that we're in right now that unfortunately permeates all of medicine right now. A lot of organizations are looking at these adjustments from multiple different angles. My stance is that really your beginning part of when you're trying to address these issues is you have to have a good understanding of what your fundamentals are. Unfortunately, organizations use capital projects as the time to go ahead and says, "Hey, we need to do reassessment. What is our workflow? What is our data flow? How much energy are we using? How much people time are we using on any given workflow or any given medical specialty?" They don't have the habit and the hygiene built into ever periodically in the interest of quality and confirmation of going back and understanding. It's like when we deployed this product, these were the assumptions that we operated on and very rarely go back and revisit it. So when a product or an application has been deployed, let's use radiology as a default example. They sized the packs 10, 15 years ago for anywhere between a million to 1.5 million studies a year using 60 users, and nobody outside of radiology really cared for that. Unfortunately, several paradigm shifts have occurred over the years, including AI as the contemporary example. Um, Subspecialists want increased access to imaging. Your referring physicians want to see the results faster and actually see the images for themselves while they're in the room with the patient. Um, Products have been evaluated and put in between the original deployment and where they may be today, but they haven't gone back and really documented what was the impact on the workflow or what resources has it cost the organization. Here we are in AI. Now we're seeing CIOs and CFOs looking at our entire application portfolios for any given organization and realize that they have a lot of applications just in imaging alone. Between radiology and cardiology, there's so many that are being covered. And if you're a multi-state or a multi-facility operation, there may be some fragmentation where every facility has their own different flavor of the application performing the same function, whether it be things like visualization, 3D post-processing, or even image exchange. Uh, the knee jerk reaction is to it's like, hey, we need to consolidate all these applications, do application rationalization, see what we can do to get economies of scale out of it. Um, so the best time to do it is now. Get a handle on it, get a hold of your metrics, and understand what your organization is actually doing before something forces you to have to reevaluate it. It makes the processing and the selection of what you're trying to find a solution much more simple. That way, you know you're not looking for a 5 pound solution if you're pulling a 10-pound load, but you can only do that with frequent reassessment and understanding where you are at any given point.
Right. So what I'm hearing is, pretty much at all times, you need to know your own organization's needs and pain points instead of, waiting for the budget to come around or, all the stars to align. This should be a priority then, really listening to your user base, learning about their problems, assessing the workflow, and then keeping tabs on what's changing in the industry so that you can identify the right solutions there. So let's assume that an organization has done this and they've identified some needs and they've identified a number of needs. What are the best strategies to try to address it when you've got so much going on? I feel like it can sometimes be a scramble to try to address so many things at once and bring in all this new technology. What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, Prioritization is key. You can't do everything at once. Many technology teams, many informatics teams are currently taxed maintaining the systems that they do have. And unfortunately, if they landed up in a situation where their solutions are end of life or have deployment challenges, those eat life cycles. Those eat active time that could be used doing the evaluations and doing communication required to bring those folks to the table. Having strong governance models. Way back in the day, Lou Lanham was a huge advocate of Cleveland Clinic, forming councils, getting the users involved, getting the clinicians in the same room as the C-suite so they can all hear simultaneously the same message, and that especially leadership is not having one physician group running in the room screaming fire and then they leave and then another physician coming in the room screaming fire, that everybody understands we're all stressed right now. Coming from multiple different angles, and I highly empathize with my clinical colleagues. The reimbursement situation is always in flux. Payments, physician staffing shortages, or even workload imbalances are causing issues, and I'm starting to fully understand. It's not radiology that's suffering from that as well. There's many other specialties that are seeing ebbs and flows in the availability of physicians to fulfill the ever increasing needs. While we're all running around the background trying to figure out how we're going to staff these things, patient care doesn't stop. Our patient volumes aren't decreasing, they're only increasing. So trying to keep pace with that. And trying to figure out how to get paid to making sure you're providing the right services at the right time to the right patients, and meeting your bills is a very, very challenging thing. While everybody's in the middle of this, and then this wonderful thing called AI just kind of dropped. Well, not dropped, but it was a groundswell and then just somewhere hit the accelerator. It's with a lot of promises to help us figure those things out, to workflow optimize things, to help uncover underutilized assets or underutilized areas, or conversely, overutilized areas to help bring us to rebalance. But unfortunately, those solutions take those resources that we already don't have in order to be implemented and then, most importantly, assessed. It's not a fire and forget situation where you just put it in and then, kind of goes through this magical data martini shaker and then boom, the answers fall out. It will give you answers. Are they the right answers? Are they quality answers? Are they telling you what you need to know? And are they doing it consistently and at a high quality? takes monitoring time. So it's prioritization that will help you get through a lot of these challenges and having rough conversations. There may be an area of great need that can't be met because there's other areas of need that are just being pushed to the limits right now. That is a personal conversation for every organization. While we're all swimming in the same pool, we're all in different sections of the pool. Some might be on the deep end, some might be on the diving board waiting to get in, and everybody might be in the shallow end, just kind of like hanging out with a pool noodle and thinking everything's fine. So it's definitely not a unified experience, universally accepted experience that everybody's getting at the same time. So where you are in your journey needs to be had, by organizations. Consult your peers, get some benchmarking if you can. Um, there are maybe organizations that have similar experiences you can pull from, and there may be other organizations that have done things that may not be great examples of your solution. And dare I say, learning from their failures or learning from their mistakes. Experience is a great teacher.
Yeah. No, I hear you there, and I've been there like you with organizations that have so many different needs, and sometimes it's the radiologist that can scream the loudest that help prioritize what goes first in the line. Other times, if IT is set up where they control the ultimate decision, then their needs can oftentimes get prioritized. And so it doesn't always make sense to everybody, which direction the organization goes with filling these needs and then implementing new technologies. Um, so what would be kind of a good strategy from a practical perspective that an organization could implement, um, where you've got different pockets of the organization really pushing for what they want? What can an organization do as a whole to make sure that it's not just whoever screams the loudest kind of gets their way?
There's a lot of commonalities in a lot of the problems, and it's sitting down and having discussions to find out where they are. I think one of the side benefits that we've seen with enterprise imaging over the years that is now more relevant than others is one of the promises, one of the great outputs of enterprise imaging was allowing to take a lot of these disparate information silos, imaging archives, and giving them a platform for where we can start pulling things together and start putting them all under the same microscope, so to speak. And shout out to my pathology brethren out there. That is given by the organizations that have taken on that journey, whether through VNA or through their primary PACS vendors, archives, that the technology and the enhancements that have happened over the past 10 years and that alone have been excellent because those archives have now been able to serve as the platform for the innovation for the future of what we're being able to harness with AI. Um, Instead of having to go to 80 different filing cabinets, you can probably harness and harvest the information in two or three, which shortens the trip from an application perspective and gives us a lot better focus on where we can be spending our attention. From a practical standpoint, those data consolidation activities, understanding the architectures of these systems to take advantage of it. And if you find something during your journey where you have an aged application that isn't able to take advantage or exploit heavily any of these newer technologies, I think that's something that very easily sits up on the board. While it's working now, eventually it's not going to work for you with these future workflows and these future needs that are coming in around the corner. That can easily weed out and help your prioritization is where are we behind in technology and doing these assessment exercises. It's like, hey, we've had this ophthalmology PACS that's been working great for the past 15 years. However, it stores things in a proprietary format in a database that we really can't maintain anymore. Maybe that's a clear signal that with some of these applications and consolidations in of IT technologies that it would be an excellent candidate for replacement.
What I'm hearing, Matt, is like you got to have a knowledgeable imaging informatics professional or team of professionals in the discussions here, right? Because if your CIO and your medical director and your radiology director are there, but they don't have the informatics background, um, it's going to be difficult to make educated decisions on how to prioritize these efforts or even understanding where the pain points are. So I think that's something that gets overlooked is the importance of a strong IIP in those decision-making discussions so that everybody has all the information they need to make the right decisions. I'm interested to get your thoughts here on, some of those exciting technologies that I talked about, um, you know, packs or VNAs that can span across multiple specialties. And if your organization isn't there yet, and you're still in a siloed environment, um, versus, maybe your organization is also not really moved to the cloud much at all. And you're looking at that, and then versus all these new AI technologies that are out there. Is there something that stands out to you as sort of like, uh, a top priority right now, given the importance of it, given the um, whether it be security importance or
Yeah.
cost. What is there something right now that really everybody should be looking at, or is it more of a case by case basis?
No, I think especially with the major incidents that have occurred over the past 2 years of highly visible things, anything that you do from here on out, unfortunately, in this day and age, does have to have security as one of the top priorities. I won't necessarily say number one, but I'll say definitely in the top three. Having the latest and greatest technology and being able to distribute it and get it, get the images to the eyeballs regardless of where they are is great and it unlocks much productivity from our clinical diagnostic readers. However, means a hill of nothing if something gets compromised and then you have to shut it down. And that is a huge consideration, especially with cloud migrations. Some organizations have gone cloud first, which is a completely acceptable strategy. It makes sense for them. They've done their ROIs, they understand what they're getting into. However, if something goes wrong and they have to cut that access to all the resources in the cloud that are no longer on site, do they have the depth of knowledge? Do they have the resources, both human and from facility standpoint, to be able to keep the continuum of care going? If that internet cable is ripped out for whatever reason and there's no access to any of the applications, any of the authentication that is needed to access the applications, and then you still have a bunch of technologists that still need to take images, do the scans, and then get them over to physicians because there's people waiting for care. And how do you minimize that interruption and keep the continuity going? There was a fantastic talk at SIM this summer, I believe it was from Mayo, about their downtime procedures, and they went all the way worst case scenario of what happens when you cannot literally turn on a PC. There was an extensive discussion about going back to paper, having paper forms, having carbon forms, having cases like totes full of everything you can conceivably need: staplers, pens, paper. It was a very thorough and a very thought provoking exercise of what happens when all of this internet reliant technology we have no longer has it. Um, and impact, the human impact is just insurmountable. And I've thankfully, will knock on the plywood board here that I have that is my desk to say that I've never firsthand been a party to anything like that, but I've been accessory to it. I've seen it and through partner organizations that have underwent those cyber attacks, and it's very impactful. I cannot say strongly enough of how much the human impact for caregiving it is. So I think security is something we definitely need to keep in mind, followed second by the infrastructure. Um, having if it's not secure and then you're putting in a non-performant architecture and you're not understanding the distribution, the location of where the information resides versus the consumer, having a very deep knowledge of where that latency, bandwidth, those things matter. If there's delays, uh, even small ones, when multiplied over the experience of multiple users, add up to very large amounts of time lost. Um, so the security in the infrastructure I put as, and being an IT technology guy, not surprisingly at the top of the list, followed by probably third the end user experience. It's got to work. It's got to work the way the users need it to. The technology, and I'm a big proponent of the workflows determine the technology, and the technology should not be driving the workflows, or else having to break training and having to break protocols and users' experience is disruptive. And we can't afford much disruption any further, just let alone on the first two items I talked about.
There's such great perspectives, and I love the concept of, hey, let's start with the foundations here before we start worrying about bells and whistles to go on top of it. And actually, where I like to start before we even get to the IT infrastructure and the importance of security and availability is just on the legal side. Are we breaking any laws? Let's start with that. And I think a lot of people would laugh and be like, "Well, of course we're not breaking any laws, we're doing it just like everybody else." But when you dig into many of these workflows, especially outside of radiology and specialties that are doing imaging but are not that closely watched, I think there's a lot of things happening that are actually illegal in regards to basic medical record retention laws that exist at the state level and things like that. And so, starting with just, are we at least in alignment with the laws? And then how about in alignment with our own internal policies? And um, and then looking to optimize from there, um, and bring in different strategies to improve makes a lot of sense for me. Seems like this is the time of year here right before RSNA where everyone gets bombarded with a lot of new and
Yeah.
exciting solutions.
Yep.
And I think what happens a lot is organizations will go there and they'll see a lot of cool new things, take some notes on what's should be on the radar, but then a lot of it fizzles out once they get back to reality, and they're dealing with so many issues. Just the foundations, just the day to day, keeping the ship afloat type of stuff. So how can an organization actually turn it around this year and try to find meaningful solutions, at RSNA or just in general, as opposed to that scenario I just spoke about where you see the stuff, but then
Yeah.
you don't really take action or do
Yeah.
anything to improve.
We talked about it at the top of the talk, I think, a good self-assessment and understand what your shopping list is. Especially going to someplace like RSNA where, there's a lot of great solutions that are out there. There's a lot of great mature solutions, but I think there's a lot more hype that's been thrown out about like what's the latest and greatest. It's like, oh yeah, we're wait. If I had a dollar, maybe like a dollar and a quarter, if I'm lucky, every time I heard, oh yeah, this is going to be great, but we're pending FDA approval, or this is going to be
Yeah.
great, it's going to solve all your problems, but it's only available in Europe, and we're still waiting for it to get modified so we can submit to it in the US. And then meanwhile, we have real problems at hand, and you're just sitting there. It's like, TikTok. It's, I think at some point in an informaticist career, and definitely at the executive level, um, you learn how to quickly administer and evaluate a sniff test. I'm like, okay, it's like, false promises. Yeah. Okay. It's like, okay, this is great. I'm glad you're showing me what is coming down the road. but the seasoned administrator is going to say, it's like, okay, what do you have now? What
Right.
do you have now? What does it do? What does it not do? And most importantly, outside of talking about the business cost thing, um, having frank conversations with your vendor. It says, okay, let's say I magically sign a PO today. What is your actual delivery turnaround time? And out a vendor is backlogged. They're still staffing up for this new initiative that they're spinning, or they're just not available at all. So they're really excited about selling you a solution, but they're not able to accommodate you on the schedule that you need it to be. RSNA is always a tricky time, and that's where I kind of hopefully have been pleading every year. It's like, with my leadership at the organizations I've been in, it's like, hey, this is great. I would like to go, just not to say anything, or not to, I just want to see what you're being shown. So when you turn right around and come back, right after the holiday, and then you're like, hey, we need to start doing this, I can get ahead of it and I can start predicting what we're in for the next year. Haven't been 100% successful on that. Um, but the tricky part being is that right after Thanksgiving holiday, you hit the skids going into the end of the year holidays, and everybody
Right.
time everything gets parked. People's memories are short, they forget things, there's no proposals. And then first of the year, for some organizations, it's a new budgeting year, and that's when the proposal machine starts magically dropping documents. It's like, hey, can you look at this PDF? I'm like, hey, we need to put this in by March. I'm like, where are all these
Yeah.
arbitrary deadlines coming from? Yes, it's important, but did you know that this is the docket of work that these teams already have scheduled for the next year? Mature IT organizations do project intake, and they're very mindful about their resources. And that's where the governance models really dovetail in very closely, is because you can set those expectations. It's like, look, the project you're asking for that you labeled high priority is probably going to take 480 to 500 hours. Right now, we have 20 hours of capacity for the next 3 quarters due to an Epic upgrade, due to the already existing PAX upgrade that's been slotted but hasn't been kicked off yet. It's like, where are we going to fit that into all of this? Because it's not. And if you
Mhm.
demand us to fit it in somewhere, one of these other things that you've already told us is a high priority has got to get moved.
Mhm.
And those
Yeah.
tough conversations have to be had.
Exactly. Yeah, that's great insight, and I've been there as well, and I'm sure many listeners have been there. And so, from what I'm hearing, this time around, it's just so important to have that shopping list, to already have done the needs assessment, and to always keep a bead on what your users are struggling with, what the issues are, so that you can come in there with a targeted approach to solving your actual needs. And it doesn't hurt to see what's out there, things that you didn't know about, and you may find some technology out there that can solve problems you didn't know you had. But I think first and foremost, understanding what needs you have in reality is the most important thing, and stepping in um, from that standpoint.
I will
So,
say one thing, God bless my mom and my grandmother, and the way they raised me. They always instilled on me, and this is where, you know, this is a great life lesson I have. There's a need and there's a want. You need to really
right.
understand. It's like, do I really need this? It's like, no, but I really want it. And that's where it's like, okay, so let's negotiate here. It's like, and once again, understanding your situation helps you rationalize those things much quickly.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank Matt for joining us today. Thank you all for the listeners tuning in to this. Um, just want to close by encouraging everyone out there to utilize your own network of experts as you perform the analysis. I wouldn't be where I am today without experts such as Matt leading the way and being able to have conversations with them and learn from them. And so I just want to encourage everyone to use your network. If you have a particular issue at your organization, most of the time you're not the only organization that's having that exact same
Absolutely.
issue, and some have already solved it. And you can learn so much from networking with other experts in your field. So getting involved in societies such as SIM, and others can be great ways to meet and learn from other industry experts. Obviously, Vega is here for assistance if you're looking for some professional assistance, either identifying needs or helping to solve those challenges. And so you're not alone out there. There's so many professionals and companies available that can help you solve whatever issues you're having in this area. So just wanted to close with that and thank everybody for joining. So have a great day.
Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining.